what external pressures appear in your life and the difference between those external pressures and what it means to set yourself up for success. So I'll give you some specific examples right here. And I'm not saying at all, be like me. I'm not saying this is the way. What I am sharing is the amount of freedom and space that setting myself up in this manner has created. So I'm 24 and I live with my mom, my two sisters. I work a minimum wage job, delivering stuff, doesn't matter. My point is those attributes of my life from the external, many people will look at that and not understand how that aligns with setting yourself up for success. So what I mean here is we're talking about going all in on something. And the reason why I work that part-time job, the reason why I live with my two sisters and my mom is because I realized that if you're building something, more often than not, it doesn't happen overnight. If you're building yourself, becoming something new, transforming who you are, and going down a route which feels innate and natural to you, odds are you are going to be making incremental adjustments, improvements, iterations over an extended period of time. And if you have not given yourself the amount of space to make those improvements over an extended period of time, then therefore you are essentially putting yourself down that path where you are like the diamond miner who stops 2 feet before reaching diamonds. Because when you do not give yourself space, you limit your potential to grow and allow your experiences to compound and turn into skill sets and turn into a brand or turn into something of value. Good things take time. And the thing is that often you see people in today's world blow up quickly, but 99% of the time they were building for a long time. They were building for a while. And these people understand that if you do not create space for your build to compound, then you shoot yourself in the foot. So I'm not saying do what I'm doing. I am saying there is a topic, a structure, which is setting yourself up for success and understanding that your skill sets, that you're becoming, is built through incremental shifts throughout time. And if you don't give yourself the space for those incremental shifts due to intentionally crafting your lifestyle, you don't give yourself the time for everything to become.
Yeah, I feel this is, I'm still in awe how intentionally you've crafted a life for yourself where this space is actually present, where you can build your business, where you can build the life you're aiming at. And this is rare. And I feel like outside pressure, I mean, the first step is to recognize, oh yeah, there is such a thing as outside pressure. I mean, we know the rules of society, get a job and follow rules and be like everyone else. And first of all, like recognizing, okay, this is kind of like a pretty random rule, but that almost seems like a law and everyone seems to follow it. And then recognizing it and then realizing, oh, wait, I've got the power to actually create my own space. And I've also got the power and I have the courage within me to execute on this and to create the space to build what I'm aiming at. And this may look different for everyone else and or for everyone, because it's unique. Every life is unique. Every idea of a good life is unique. And so for instance, for me personally, I mean, I jumped out of physics research, and I kind of dropped a career in physics. So I was, everyone was like, "Are you nuts? Are you nuts building your own business and dropping this career?" And I was like, "No, I'm not nuts. I'm building the life I want to." And because the thing is, like, I realized and don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with having a 9 to 5 or getting a 9 to 5, because it can be beautiful leverage. And it can be kind of like a springboard. And I used this. I used the money I earned in my 9 to 5 to actually build my business, because I minimized my costs and I saved as much as I possibly could. And this enabled me to jump out. And it's also about its intention, to be intentional about the resources you have and use them for what you're aiming at. It takes courage, it takes clarity, and then to actually build this, because now I know what I wanted to say. Because I realized that if I choose to have a 9 to 5, like instance for consulting, which I could have done after doing research, I realized the more successful I get in the job, the more I have to work. And this was not something I would enjoy, because, having the 9 to 5 already was leaving little time for the things I wanted to create. And so every situation is unique. Use what you have, get clarity on where you're going, and then be consistent, be intentional, have the courage, and ignore the noise.
And the things that stick out, it's like to have the courage to actually inquire upon your circumstance, right? Because let's say, you're born in this day and age where there's technology, and well, that's different from being born in the 50s, 1950s. So what I'm getting at here is we have different hands that were dealt. We all have different hands that were dealt. And a huge aspect of my decision to still live with my sisters and my mom is the fact that my dad's not around. So, hey, that's not the same situation for everyone. So we have to have the courage to not fall into this cycle of just copying and pasting, living shallow lives, thinking that the rules, the ideas of others definitely apply to you. They might, but there's no guarantee that anything I'm saying here applies to you. There's no guarantee that anything I'm saying is true. What I ask you when you're listening to me speak, like, just see if anything here resonates deeply with you. Because the one of the worst things that anyone can do in life is to blindly follow and believe others. And this comes in terms of you listening to me, you listening to teachers, parents, society, professors, everyone. You yourself are capable of inquiring on a level where what feels right, what is right, comes from you, within, deep within. You are going to come to many crossroads in life where you see someone doing something, and there are parts of that thing which they're doing which you admire. But you don't want to forget that that part which you're admiring is just one slice of their life. It is not their whole life. So when you're looking, comparing, and listening, think holistically. Put it all together. Understand the web. If you want one piece of a certain life, you want to understand that you might not be able to get just that piece without absorbing a lot of different pieces of that thing which you admire. Point is, structural concept here is just to understand that there are continuous trade-offs. There are trade-offs everywhere all the time. And we have massive power in feeling which trade-offs are most innate to us. Listen to that curiosity. Have the courage to realize that your heart knows. You do not need to seek external information, advice, guidance. Now, I'm not saying don't listen or observe to that stuff. I'm just saying there is a difference between blindly following and having the courage to inquire, to ask, and to pay attention to what's going on within you.
Yeah, I feel recognizing what's going on within you and what your heart is saying. And I mean, sometimes this can also take a while until you realize. And so, for instance, to give you an example, for me, back in the day when I was still working in physics research, I made friends, and they later told me, while we were writing our PhD thesis together in the same office, I was constantly talking about building my own business. And like every day, I was just talking about it every day because I was so passionate about it, but I hadn't started yet. I was just talking about it, and I didn't realize I was doing this on a daily basis. And they told me later, they were like, yeah, you were talking about it every single day. And I was like, oh, really? Well, high time I'm doing it now. But it took me years to actually realize this, and then to be intentional about crafting a life, or crafting the space, creating the space to actually build the business, and also to build up the courage to build the business. And just listening to your heart. And who knows, maybe you're already talking about things you're passionate about, but you aren't aware. This is possible. So maybe start listening to yourself. Start to observe like where you're constantly pulled towards. There are certain topics in your life where you constantly are like fascinated, or need to read about it, or you just need to know. You can't help yourself. And this is like your heart speaking to you. It's saying, oh, look, this is something that's a good fit. And then just flow with it, and then see what happens. Because this also means it's not work, it's play, because you're enjoying it so much. And that's what it's all about. Because, I mean, we're human beings after all, and not human doings and not human havings. It's about just being and in the moment, and also flowing with what you do. And this means like you create a space to just be.
Mm-hmm. So full circle, if we start with that principle of it's incremental shifts over an extended period of time, and there has to be space, there has to be intention, strategy to make sure that those shifts have the time to compound. Like, you start there, but to understand how that is sustainable, it's the courage that we're talking about, to inquire within, to question, to understand what your heart's pulling you toward. What is your curiosity driving you toward? Because there is a sure correlation between the amount of effort and time you're willing to invest into something and the amount of curiosity that you have toward that thing. And if you have the courage to listen to your heart and understand your pulls, your curiosity, your innate natural interest, and then you have the intention, the strategic thinking to make sure that you set yourself up in a space that has enough room for all of that to be implemented into an actual lifestyle, then you're moving in a direction which happens to be what Myra was touching on, where it's no longer work, but it turns into play, because you're working through an alignment. And when you're working through an alignment with your heart, your curiosity, it's actually entertaining. And I'm not saying it's all fairies and rainbows, but I am saying that I don't know how many of you have done a job which is not natural, which isn't aligned with your curiosities. And then compare that, if you can, to those moments where you're working through something which just feels entertaining. And there's no simple solution here, but what it is, the only pathway is for you to understand that there is something within unique about you that is meant to be cultivated, strengthened, shared, and inquired upon. And that's what makes the entire game worthwhile, because we all have a different interest, a different curiosity. And if we all had the same one, life would be shit. So the structure is that our curiosity creates the better world when we flow through that curiosity. And the fun is that everyone's curiosity is going to be a little different. There may be overlaps. That's why me and Myra are here talking together, because there's an overlap. But if anything, like practically, what can you do? All of this it starts with having clarity. So if you clean up and grow up, clean up habits, nutrition, no processed food, consume whole foods, exercise, get sunlight, go on walks, stretch, meditate, simple stuff. Don't live to impress others. Live to fulfill your heart. There's a difference. There's such a gap there between aiming to impress others and fit in and listening to your heart. That's what I can leave you with. If this was valuable, helpful, if you smiled at all, any moments of clarity during this, drop a like or a rating, depending on if you're on YouTube or podcast. I'm grateful. I'm thankful for you, sincerely. And Myra is as well. So if you have anything, any feedback, any ideas, contact information for both Myra and I will be in description. And lastly, I have a one-on-one offer for anyone who is sincere and driven about developing their mind, their clarity, their confidence, creating themselves into an individual whom they truly admire. If that sounds like you, I have a free offer for you, a 60-minute session. Contact me, email me, give me a little bit of context. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day.